That's my secret, cat. I'm always angry.
Alright. I ran out of patience. On the roost!
Hey everyone, Captain, big fan of Spider-Man.
Avengers! Assemble. Hello, Peter.
Hello and welcome back to the Infinity Saga and Beyond, an MCU fan podcast. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me today is Matt Hartgrove.
I'm here. I'm ready.
And we are talking Hawkeye.
I'm saying I'm not as good with a bow and arrow.
Yeah. Thankfully, we don't need Matt to do any of the stuff that happens in this episode. So I found two descriptions. I think one of them is a description for the whole show, and then one of them is a description for the episode. But anyway, we might be doing these in one episode, we'll see. But we're talking the first two episodes that dropped. Episode 1, Never Meet Your Heroes, directed by Rhys Thomas, written by Jonathan Igla, release date November 24th of 2021 on Disney Plus. The description: Kate Bishop, a skilled archer whose overconfidence can cloud her judgment, lands in the middle of a criminal conspiracy. Meanwhile, Clint Barton's much-needed Christmas trip to New York with his kids is interrupted when a painful part of his past resurfaces. It's just a matter of time till their paths cross, forcing Hawkeye out of retirement. Then the episode description just says, Archer Kate Bishop lands in the middle of a criminal conspiracy, forcing Hawkeye out of retirement. So when I wrote that first description, I was like, my goodness, this is the longest Disney Plus description I've ever seen. And then then I see the actual episode description. I was like, oh, no, that's more like it. But I guess general thoughts, Matt, on what you thought of the first two episodes of Hawkeye, but specifically the first one.
Not to say. First one, I guess I was slightly underwhelmed. But I know it's a background episode, so I know that there isn't too much to be expected of it besides kind of figuring it out a little. I love when what Marvel's done recently, where in certain points in shows they've gone back to something that happened in the past, whether it be like a movie. You know, we saw it in I think it was WandaVision, where they went back and saw what was happening during the snap at a hospital. Monica
Rambeau. Yep.
I love. So I did enjoy seeing the opening scene was Kate Bishop as a kid in New York during the initial Avengers movie. I thought the middle portion of it was just a little slow, but again, I know it's an opening episode, so you're just trying to get Hawkeye background, Kate Bishop background. It did pick up by the end of it, leading into the next episode, but it was just kind of sandwiched. It was just a slow portion sandwiched between a good start and good end.
Yeah, I thought the first episode was a little slow in that regard. What I liked about it's why I really enjoyed that they put the first two episodes out this week, because I think if it would have ended the way that this first episode ended, I'd be like, just as weird. I wanted to see them interact, and we do get to finally see them interact, but it's mostly the second episode with that. But like you said, I really in this 2012 during the Battle of New York stuff, because when you see 2012 pop up on the screen, you're like, okay, I know where this is going, right? This is going to be something about the Avengers here. They're in New York, and she's just doing normal everyday things. Her parents are probably on the verge of divorce. They're having money issues or wanting to move out of the house. She's listening in. She goes to play checkers with her mom, and that's when the invasion starts. And it's just kind of this cool point of view of a normal everyday kid and a family, what they were going through while our heroes were, stopping Loki. And I thought that was a lot of fun to see how that had transpired. And then also seeing, the point of view of Clint jumping off of the building and doing that shot that he does in the Avengers and seeing it from her point of view and how it inspired her. I thought that was a lot of cool stuff. It's the only stuff you can do with the MCU, right? We've already built this up. We've already shown you this scene almost 10 years ago now. And now we're going to see it from this point of view, and it immediately helps just set up and build up this character by relying on stuff that has happened in the past.
Yeah, it was good. I was also like trying to get used to the mom being. I know the actress. It's like Vera Famiglia, or I don't know how to say her last name. She's in the Conjuring movies, so I was like trying to get used to her being.
I know her from Bates Motel. She was very good in that too. Yeah,
it was weird. I was trying to get used to her character. Actually, I'm still not kind of used to it. I'm used to seeing her as a psychic medium, ghost hunter type.
Yeah, well, she's not that in this movie, in this show. But yeah, so. As we were talking about, if we go plot by plot here, it starts with the battle of New York. Her parents are, like I said, on the verge of divorce, I guess. I don't know. They're having money trouble, I guess. The mom wants to sell the house. He doesn't want to. I guess he grew up in the house. I think it's alluded to. And, she witnesses Clint Barton, saving, and actually saves her by one of his arrows that was going to Chitauri that was heading towards her, the hole in her wall that gets blown up here. And it inspires her that at the funeral, the mom's like, whatever you need. And she's like, I need a bow and arrow. Like she's already wanting to be like Clint at that point.
Probably one of the lone Hawkeye fans in the MCU.
We did meet another one too, didn't we? Didn't somebody else in the show say that it's their favorite Avenger as well?
I can't remember if it was that or it's I think at the end of the episode when they're walking in the streets and they're all dressed up as Avengers and she makes the branding comment to Clint.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so yeah, one of the lone Hawkeye fans, not a lot of them, but what we do get here too is then I think right after this we cut to. Do we cut to her coming home or we cut to the Rogers the musical at this point?
Well, after the first scene, it's I know that you have the scene at, I guess it's her university, maybe, where she's like,
oh yeah, with the bell,
an adult, yeah. Like that one seemed. Not gonna lie, I guess I don't fully understand that scene. Besides showing that she can shoot a bow and arrow,
that's all
it seemed like that was, yeah. So I mean, it was just like a small scene there. And
gets her in trouble. Apparently, she gets in trouble a lot. A very Clint-esque thing, I guess. But yeah, so she, like you said, that wasn't in the description that was listed here, but she, fires a couple arrows at the tower. One of them had like a tennis ball on it, and it didn't make it ring. And I guess her task, right, her dare was that she'd have to get the bell to ring. So she used like this one arrow with like a hook or like a grapple thing that like grabbed onto the rope, and it like rung the bell. And then for some reason that made the whole bell tower fall. That I'm not really sure why that happens. It didn't seem like that strong of a ringing of the bell.
Yeah, because then like it goes into her seeing her mom coming home, and even then it was just like the mom was just like, oh, they told me what happened with the bell tower, and then it was like, yeah, here's a medal I won. Let's put it in my room. I was like, okay. Yeah,
it's she has grown up rich is something we'll learn. Like she grew up rich. I'm not sure if it was always on her mom's end that she was rich, or if it was originally her dad that was rich. I'm not really sure how that worked out. I guess we might learn more about that. Because her dad was doing some sort of work, it felt like, where he was working from home. He was, I guess, doing something in his basement, and it didn't seem like her mom had worked then. But she's so rich, she barely gets in trouble for it. I mean, like the mom will say, like, I didn't want you to grow up feeling invincible, because rich people feel invincible and young people feel invincible, and you're both, like you're young and rich right now, and you're doing a lot of stupid stuff. You can't be doing this type of stuff. But more importantly, she wants her to go to this gala that they're having.
Yeah.
Charity auction. Yeah.
It was the I know you'll mention it, but it felt like it was the classic. Let me break the news to you. I'm dating somebody who's not your father, who's dead. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, and I think at this point she wanted to tell him that they were engaged. I think it's been I guess she already knew Jack. Is that his name, right?
Yeah.
She already knew Jack because she does say like hi to him when he walks in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she did want to tell her ahead of time, but then something happens where they have to get going, I think. But we also get Clint and his family with his children in New York for Christmas. And they're, the mom is still at home. Like his wife is still at home. But, he's spending time just one-on-one with the kids. This is not long after the blip. I think this is only a few months to maybe a year after the blip that, he's spending time with his kids. Mm-hmm. And they go see Rogers the Musical, which is based off of Hamilton. That the poster looks very Hamilton-esque. We get the Battle of New York in a sing-songy version here in a musical. And I really like the song in the musical because it's Steve saying I could do this all day, which I thought was just perfect. And I think it's funny now that like even the everyday people of the MCU apparently know that was like Steve's thing. Like I'm guessing whoever wrote this musical had to do research, and somebody brought up at one point, maybe Bucky or somebody brought up about how Steve says this, I can do this all day. And, they make a whole song around it. I thought that was really funny.
I enjoyed the one little part where Clint goes, he was like Ant-Man wasn't even there or something like that. It was like,
yeah.
I kind of like it when they refer, because they're all like, obviously, I mean, they're not all normal people, but like I enjoy when they refer to each other as the actual like hero. So it's like, oh, Ant-Man. He's not saying I forget Ant-Man's name at
Scott,
this point.
Yeah.
Scott, yeah. Instead of saying like, oh, that Scott wasn't there, he's like, Ant-Man wasn't there. I already know that. I enjoyed that part, but it was also when he's in the bathroom and he's at the urinal and the
That's
urinal
who it was. This guy. Well, not the Thanos was the right thing, but that guy says you're my favorite Avenger or my daughter's favorite Avenger, and he wanted a picture or a selfie or something.
We were watching that, and I was like, we were watching it, and you see him go to the urinal, and then there's all these open urinals, and he goes to the one right next to it, and I was like, that's breaking men's bathroom code.
Yes, it is.
Like,
yes.
If anyone, I think I said, I was like, if anyone ever did that to me, I would assume they're like trying to kidnap or murder me.
Yeah,
if there's all these open
there's 5 more down that way. Take a step over.
And that's how he looked.
Always have to have at least one urinal in between.
Yes.
That's the rule.
Oh, yeah. And I like that Jeremy Renner as Jeremy Renner, he actually is acting. His face was almost like, why are you
like really?
Next to me? Yeah. And I like that little scene, especially with the Thanos, was right too. I thought was funny.
Yeah. And again, that shows that people in the universe actually know what Thanos' goal was, right? Was to eliminate half of life. Like, it is funny how this stuff gets out to the public. Somehow it has to be like, what, reports that are not classified or something. Like, I feel like, everybody knew something had happened that got rid of half the people. But I was always wondering, like, do they tell everybody, oh, this was Thanos or this was, because nobody else really saw Thanos except for our heroes. But it is funny that, parts of the universe then in this MCU, they know the details. They know that Thanos wanted to, do it by his own weird way of eliminating half a life. And they knew that, Steve says, I can do this all day. And like you said, where you do see like Scott Lang, it looks like in this thing, and he wasn't there. Like, so they get some of the stuff right and they get some of the stuff wrong, right? Because who would have known if Ant-Man was there or not? Just the people that were there. Otherwise you see Ant-Man hanging out with everybody during Civil War, and you're like, oh, he must have been at Battle of New York too, or else why wouldn't he have been?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. But Clint has a earpiece. He's got like a hearing aid because of all the explosions he's been in and stuff. So he had some ear damage there, and he turns off his hearing aid during this so he doesn't have to hear the show, and he's not really enjoying it. But they decide to leave early. He's having a tough time with this. The Black Widow actress. He has a tough time, and his kids and he leave. They go to like a restaurant, and they're having, dinner, and the restaurant people even bring him free food, saying that, hey, you saved New York City. Mm-hmm. So you eat for free. So that was pretty nice. He didn't seem too into it, right? He was kind of like, no, like he wasn't like a jerk that's like, I should eat for free. He was really taken aback by it.
Yeah, it's like at this point he's a normal guy.
Right.
That's his whole point.
He's retired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's retired. I mean, this is actually probably the second time he's retired, because he was retired for Civil War.
Infinity War.
Civil War, and then he gets pulled out of there to join Team Cap.
And then also the Corps, he retires. So he's always out of it. Like he just wants to be a family guy at this point.
Yeah, he's done his thing. Yeah, he was under house arrest too. But then we get the gala. So we go back to Kate Bishop, and she didn't listen to her mom. Her mom wanted her to wear the red dress. She's wearing a black suit, with suit and tie, suit jacket, all that stuff, which I thought was funny. But in the gala, we have Armand the Third come over to her, and I thought the guy who played Armand was really good. Actually, I really liked the way he was delivering his lines in this scene. But he's the one that actually spills the news about Jack and her mom being engaged. He's not a fan of her mom, and Jack is his nephew, I think is what they describe it as.
I believe so.
So what was your take here on Armand the Third, and who we'll see also Armand the Seventh, who walks in as a little kid?
It feels like it's setting up something to do with either Jack or the mom, or maybe it's both of them. It just seems like there's something, obviously, as we get later, just really like the next scene, we could tell that there's at least some sort of sketchiness with him, especially. But to me, it kind of feels like it's either one of maybe two things. It's like, I feel like there's always the classic, mom dating the friend who is into something sketchy or doing something sketchy, but like is just enthralled with him, that no matter what the daughter says or the son says, like, she's like, no, he would never do that. Like it feels very, I feel like I've seen this kind of thing in movies before to an extent, where it's like, you could tell there's something up, whether it's between just Jack or Jack and Eleanor. We don't know. It looks like the uncle is more so around just Jack. He probably doesn't think anything of Eleanor with it. But to me, it's something to watch, because something is up with both of them, if I had to guess. Or maybe she's the head of it, and he's just kind of the lackey. But there's something sketchy going on with the two of them.
I'm wondering, and this probably won't make any sense, but I'm wondering if the mom is the bad guy and Jack's not. Like, Jack is actually a good guy, and we're being led astray here with the whole fencing thing in the next episode. Or maybe you said, or maybe they're both in leagues together. But it'd be interesting,
because at the end of the next episode, we do get what seems to be the head of at the moment, the villain team, the Tracksuit Mafia, which I know we'll get to. But at the end we get like a shot of possibly like the head or maybe the head of that area of that mafia, but I don't know. It reads very. I don't want to say simplistic, but I feel like if you've seen movies or TV shows and you watch this first episode, your first thought should be something is up with the two of them, that they are trying to hold out on letting us know. Now eventually we'll find out, I would assume, but it definitely reads very, very much like that.
Yeah, and the reason why I think that too is like maybe like, okay, so if we go by my plan, I guess, of he's actually good, Jack the is bad, and they're kind of misleading it here. The whole, like, you know, when we see Armand getting into an argument with Kate's mom, Kate reads it as Armand threatening her. But what if it's like she was putting the pressure on him for something, and or he's just telling her, I don't like you hanging out with my nephew because you're a bad influence. You know, maybe something like that. But, you know, Kate's reading it differently, and they're kind of leading us down a different way, because we will see Jack and Armand in a black market together. So, I mean, they're still not even, both of them are still not like great people, right? Even if it's not true. But it's recovered items from Avengers Compound after it was destroyed by Thanos. Interesting. I love they can tie this type of stuff into the shows.
Yeah, and I think this is where you start to see, this is where you do start to see where the show is going with like their plot line, or what the. So I wasn't understanding very much how Kate and Clint would somehow, you know, it wasn't going to be like Clint going like, oh my God, you shoot arrows really well. Like, let me mentor you. Like, that was never going to be the case. So they had to figure out a way to, what was going to make Clint and Kate run into each other. And in all honesty, I actually think it was pretty clever, because I know we'll kind of get to what happens in it, but it's not how I expected them to, I guess, cross paths. But I think they decided on a good reasoning for how they cross paths, or why they cross paths.
Yeah, that's what I was always wondering too, is how they're going to run into each other. You know, how do they, does she just seek him out, or, you know, what is it? And it's actually this happen chance stuff that, happens here.
It's not Iron Man and Spider-Man. Like, it's not
right.
Tony.
He doesn't go find a teenager to like manipulate. Yeah. But the auction is interrupted by the Tracksuit Mafia, which is what I thought Clint just called them because they wore tracksuits, but apparently this is their name, the Tracksuit Mafia, which I thought was funny. It's like, what are we going to call ourselves? Oh, we wear tracksuits. Well, why not? Yeah. But they're a Russian street gang, and they're trying to recover a watch from the items, and we haven't really learned much about why this watch is so special or what yet, but I'm assuming we will at some point. But they had also just done some auctions of the Ronin sword, which Armand had won, but Jack is going to pick it up when Armand is injured. And the Ronin suit from Hawkeye. Nobody knows Hawkeye was Ronin, apparently. And while Kate is just, deciding if she's going to save Armand, or not Armand, but Jack, she puts on the Ronin suit so nobody recognizes that it's her. Also, I really liked Kate in this scene when she's hiding and watching, and the one guy comes over and says, hey, I'm supposed to be the only one down here. And she says, Gary told me, and that she actually got the name right. But that then Gary comes back down, and, when she says she quits because Gary doesn't even know who she is, that's the problem, and I thought that was really good thinking on our feet right there.
Yeah. It brings up, just the whole scene brings up interesting things that I guess we didn't, obviously, I mean, maybe in the comics it's more well known, but movie wise, we don't know much about Hawkeye's time as Ronin besides being pretty much a, I guess in a way he's just an assassin. He's just going around killing every like gang. He just feels like nobody deserves. It's almost like he feels nobody deserves to live after the snap because his family was snapped away. I'm just going to go off and defeat anybody I can. So it is interesting because I did find it good. I found it a good thing to see how they reacted to it. Now it's like Kate has no idea what that suit is. Like she loves Hawkeye. I guess that's where the title of the episode kind of comes up with Never Meet Your Heroes, because she meets her hero because of his incredibly bad past during that 5-year span.
Right.
So it's interesting to see how people react to it, because I know, again, we'll get to it, but, Hawkeye or Clint realizes that that suit is out and he knows the background of it, like how many people want to get at him because of it, even though nobody knows it's him. Like literally the only person I guess was Black Widow at this point. And I actually didn't even think of that. I honestly thought most people, or at least the Avengers, knew, or maybe it was like somewhat known. So I found that to be interesting, that it's such an unknown fact in their universe.
Yeah, I think most of the Avengers know, because even the people that tell like Nat to like give up on him, like Rhodey knows, I think, at that point, because he's I think they say like how far he's gone, right?
Yeah.
But I think part of it is covering, right? Like covering for them. He's a hero. Yeah. He saved the world. He helped save, actually more than the world, half of the whole universe from, disappearing. He's done a lot that they say, you know what? We just sweep this under the rug. Nobody has to know you were Ronin, because nobody does. And I thought that was interesting. Plus, it also, I don't think his kids know, right? I mean,
no,
it's probably something that his wife does, because she definitely makes references to the Tracksuit Mafia and stuff. But I don't think he would want his kids to know he's Ronin. That's why it's probably not going to be public information.
Yeah.
But you're right that, she meets him because of this, but it's this person she looks up to, but she doesn't even know that that's a side of him that she's aware, like she's not aware of that side of him.
Mm-mm. Is she aware of who Ronin was, like in a sense of what this character did?
I think so. It seems like people on the news were saying like, oh, this is our first appearance of Ronin in like a few years, but I'm not sure if they, they, I don't think he's like unknown. They made references to it on the news, and, like other people would say like, oh, it's a Ronin suit or whatever, but I'm not sure what she knew about him.
Yeah.
Probably knew of him, but maybe not a lot of stuff. Because even the guy that takes the suit, I think, in the next episode, I think he knows what, who that is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Kate wears the Ronin suit, defeats the Tracksuit Mafia, and even saves a stray dog who's missing an eye. And she goes to track down Armand to investigate further. And when she goes in there, she sees one, that he's got his own monogrammed butterscotch, which is interesting. But he's been murdered. And she's actually going to escape before, I guess, his housekeeper finds him. And she runs into more Tracksuit Mafia members. And this is where we get Hawkeye coming to save the day. And he's there to get the suit. And ends up rescuing Kate. Anyway, but he's about to, like, punch her, I guess. I don't know. And then, he takes off the mask and sees it's just a girl. And it ends there. And that's where I was like, oh, thank God they have 2 episodes this week, because I really want to see them interact.
Yeah, it got better as the episode went on. And like I said, what I did enjoy was that it wasn't a simple way to get them to meet. It was very, to be honest, like by the end of Endgame, I didn't even think of Ronin, because all the stuff that happened. Like you almost just put it to the back of your brain. So to have that play a role and then also be the reason that Kate Bishop kind of gets tossed in there with him, at least that part saved what was pretty slow of an episode.
Yeah, I think you have to explore the Ronin stuff when you're having a show about Hawkeye, because we really only got to see 5 minutes of Ronin, right? I mean, like, we see him fight
like,
one dude, right? And then Nat, gives him the whole, like, yeah, we gotta go save the world type of thing. So
yeah.
But yeah, so she even takes the stray dog back to her apartment. That's something we forgot to mention, which is combined with a pizza place. She gives him pizza to eat, and the episode ends. And the reason why we have to mention that is because that'll kind of come back up in the second episode. But yeah, overall, first episode, really good setup. I enjoyed it, but the second episode, I think, is where it really took off for me.
Yeah, it started going. It started picking up, is what it was.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of potential. Obviously, and we'll get to the second episode. But if they didn't have that second episode, I feel like it would have been just a pretty underwhelming launch. Because there is only 6 episodes, so you have to try to put as much as you can into these, while also trying, you're trying to get background going, you're trying to get a character introduced, you're trying to cover, kind of go over something that happened in the past with Ronin. There's a lot to the series. So to have a first episode that is relatively slow, there needs to be like something happening at the end to start picking up that pace. And so it did, and it did go into the next episode.
Yeah, and we will talk that episode now. So that one's called Hide and Seek, also directed by Reese Thomas and written by Elisa Climent. Also released November 24th, 2021. Clint has to help Kate disentangle herself from the Tracksuit Mafia and a real-life murder mystery. So we pick up like exactly where we left off with with Clint asking who she is and going from there. And then we get them, interacting, and she's going to take Clint back to her apartment so that way she can change into clothes and give him back the suit. Everything seems to be going smoothly here. We get to see her in her apartment too. She has like this whole bow and arrow, like hunting, shooting range type of thing with the target. He looks around at that kind of stuff while she's changing. And then, as they're, she mentions, he's like, is there anywhere else you went when they were following you or anything? And she does mention that she came here to drop the dog off. And then right as soon as that happens, pretty much is when the Tracksuit Mafia has found Kate Bishop and is calling for her to come out. And we get a little fight scene here with which sets the apartment on fire.
I noticed in the apartment, I want to know what they're like, why I keep seeing it, but like in her apartment, and this is completely irrelevant probably to the episode, there was a table that was clearly from like a old bowling alley. And also in Loki, when they go to like the end of time, they're like in a bowling alley. And I'm trying to figure out why we keep seeing bowling stuff inside of the Marvel. All of a sudden they keep putting it in. I was kind of like looking at that going, why is there bowling? Those are bowling tables. Like that's a chair that you would find.
Maybe they have because they usually film in Atlanta. Maybe they have like all these old bowling alleys where they're just able to strip them for stuff for the show. I don't know. It's interesting.
But no, I was happy the episode started. I was happy the episode started off directly from the first one. So it just kind of like went right into it. And it's hearing Clint talk about the Ronin suit. You can tell how he's concerned for I think multiple reasons, because he knows he knows how much danger she's in being near and having that suit, which also I think puts more intrigue into what else can we learn about him as Ronin and what other villains there are out there. Because it almost feels to an extent that a lot of the show is going to be almost Hawkeye dealing with his issues when he was Ronin, setting up Kate Bishop to kind of take over the role eventually, because he's going to either figure out everything that happened and kind of get that settled, or I guess like hypothetically kill Ronin and maybe just like get rid of that character once and for all. But that's what this episode kind of played into the whole, this is going to be a big show about who Ronin was and what he can do to at least clear that part up of his life.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this will be mostly an exploration of his time as Ronin, who he made enemies with. If some of the rumors are right, some big enemies, which we'll see if that comes true or not.
Like people that would go further into the MCU, like
yes,
we're gonna talk. Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yes, and there's a hint to it with this end of the episode that we'll see as well, with who the leader of the Tracksuit Mafia is. But we have, like you said, we have him kind of having to deal with that, and like kind of also having to face like who he was during that time. I don't think he's happy with what he did during that time, now that, Nat kind of pulled him back from the ledge, and now that he's been able to reinstate his family, right? Because at that point he was doing that as why did my family disappear while you scum are still out here type of thing.
Yeah.
I think he went a little too far, and that's why we haven't seen Ronin come back at any point. I know Ronin has been, I think, multiple characters throughout the comics. We have, the first character that was Ronin is a character named Echo, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Clint Barton was the second iteration of Ronin. And some other people have been Ronin before as well. So it's interesting to see how it goes from there. But they're forced to evacuate. They leave the suit behind. It was on a chair that was surrounded by a ring of fire. Said to leave it. They said they'd come back and get it later. So we go to Kate's vacationing aunt's house. Really upscale apartment, it looks like. Clint is going to send his children home, and he promises that he will return Christmas Day. But, he is, before he does that, he's about to go back to the apartment after the firemen get there. He's going to steal one of the firemen outfits from the truck and get in there and see that the suit's already gone. And the fireman had like a logo on his decal that was a LARPing, New York City live action role playing place that he was going to check out. He thinks that maybe there'd be a lead there. And, he told Kate he's not going to stay long at the aunt's house. He's, we see him kind of up late on like Instagram or TikTok or something, where he sees this guy with the Ronin suit, like, oh, I made my own suit. I got a suit finally. And that's when he's gonna send his children home the next day. He's gonna tell them that he'll be home for Christmas. He puts the oldest son in charge, but tells the daughter she's actually in charge. But he's gonna escort Kate to her workplace as well. And we learn that Kate works for her mom. Like, she works for the Bishop Security, which is what her mom does. We're not really sure what role she has there, I guess. Wasn't very clear. But, she even has this conversation then with Jack and her mom, and they set like a dinner date for later that day that we're going to see as well. And then this is where we get Clint going to the LARP event, and he's just over it. He doesn't want to do any of this stuff. I thought this was very great, but he has to do it. He has to put on his, he has to play the role so that way he can go see the guy who has the Ronin suit. And I thought it was really funny when he was doing like the sign and stuff in the tent and just all the questions they're asking. And he's like, what were they asking that? He's like, no, I'm not giving that out. Or he gave it like fake stuff really quickly. Was it like phone number and email and stuff?
I can't remember the questions. The scene was funny. I think the importance of the scene is more so at the end when he gets I feel like there's no way that the LARPer or the firefighter won't play at least like a helping role at some point. I kind of like that. It was like a feel good moment where it was like, I was happy that he let the guy win. I was like watching it going, I hope he lets him win. Like, cause you can tell Clint's he doesn't want to deal with this stuff anymore. You could tell he's like kind of over it. I was like, please don't I was like really rooting for the firefighter. I was like, come on, like let him win. Like, let's show him how cool. Like, let him think everyone thinks he's so cool. I can see where I
was the opposite. I was like, punish him.
It is an interesting scene because to an extent, it felt relatively unneeded. I guess I know that he has the suit, so like at that point, it did become how does he get it back? Again, there's a lot of ways you probably could go about it. Like it didn't have to be just someone LARPing, taking the suit for their next event, showing off how cool it was. So I could see where, like, I bet there's definitely got to be people out there that are a little bit like, okay, we didn't need that kind of scene. But I think at the end, that's what Marvel does, is that even though it's a serious situation within the actual show, they still find a way to get some comic relief out of it. So it breaks it up a little bit. So it's not just like constant fighting and like, we got to do this and we got these guys chasing us. And like, it did give you at least like a 5 to 10 minute span of like, okay, like this is nice to see, like them getting back into like a more easygoing manner, because there is a way to like look at it with after the whole Endgame. There's just so much seriousness obviously in the MCU because it is like Thanos, like who's out there that's like Thanos at this point seems like he's a small villain based off of some of the other villains that are going to pop up eventually. So it's like, it's almost like everybody's trying to figure out what's the next bad thing to happen. So I enjoy when Marvel does have that little bit of like relief in their episodes.
Yeah, I was rooting for Clint here. I was thinking, well, because you couldn't go wrong, right? Like the guy said he'd give it to him if he lets him win, right? But also the contest was whoever wins gets the suit. So I thought the guy was going to like backstab him by saying like, well, I won, I keep the suit now, So I was like, just beat him, Clint. But
the scene went just how I wanted it to.
yeah. But no, it was funny. I liked when, even as he's walking over to that guy, all the people coming at him, and he's just making quick work of him, just like, bam, got you in the chest, like dodge and stuff. And then when he gets to the guy, and he's like, you got to put up an actual fight. And he's like, I fought Thanos, like he's like, I fought Thanos, and here I am having to play act this guy and lose to this guy on purpose. But yeah, it was a good scene. But and on his way there, as they're having that walk while he's walking Kate, we do get, her talking about how, his branding, but also, she says what his branding is being like inspirational, right? Like for her, that's very much what he is because of the interaction from 2012, which I don't think she's been able to tell him yet, like how much that affected her. She's only been able to say that you're my favorite Avenger. And, she gets his phone number. He says to only use it for emergencies or else he's blocking her. Just some good back and forth, I think, between these two. But So, go ahead.
I would say, like, it's important what you mentioned there, though. Like, and I think that will be a factor, at least in the beginning half of the series, or maybe through the first 4 episodes. This is her biggest hero ever. Like, it's not Iron Man, it's not Captain America, it's not Hulk, it's not Thor, like Hawkeye. He's just a regular guy that shoots bow and arrows. And her only knowledge of him is pretty much 2012 and like maybe whatever you hear on the news about what happens in the world of, Avengers 2 and Civil War. Like, they probably got like some news like, oh, the Avengers are fighting each other, over the Accords. So I think that's an important part of the series, is to constantly look back at the fact that Hawkeye is not who she realizes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of an interesting, when does that bubble burst? How does that affect them? How does that affect their relationship? How does that change the course of the show? Because I don't think there's going to be a point where she doesn't find out he was Ronin, and he was this assassin that killed probably, maybe not thousands, but definitely hundreds. It seems like he killed a lot of people. And I know that most of them are like bad drug lords and gang members, but he's not the Avenger that she realizes. And you can see in the show that is what affects him. Maybe not even the show. Like, you see it in Endgame. He is not happy with who he became at that point. So you have that going on with the situation with the Tracksuit Mafia, and then her parents, her mom and Jack. So it's like, those are the 3 main focuses, I think, in the series. But that's the one I'm almost most intrigued to see how that one plays out. How does she handle the breaking news of, hey, yeah, he's Hawkeye, but he's Ronin.
Right. And we kind of get that. We get the Kate with her parents and stuff here, where, with Jack and with Eleanor at the dinner, Kate had said that she wants to bring up the topics, right? So she brings up the sword stuff. She's trying to figure out why they're so interested in these swords and why Armand and Jack were bidding for this Ronin sword. Yeah. And she asks if he's fenced, because she has in the past, and they do this nice little like fencing standoff here, which, you know what, in 7th grade I took fencing in gym, and that was so much fun. I loved fencing.
Jeez, they made you do that in gym?
Yeah. Yep. I got stabbed too. The tip of the thing broke off, like the rubber tip broke off, and I got stabbed in the thigh, and I had to get a tetanus shot because it was a rusty tip. But it was fun.
The only thing I ever think about with fencing is I think it's I Love You Man. When Paul Rudd. I always think of, whenever I see fencing, I have no idea. That's a sport that I can tell you I don't understand. I'm not going to pretend like I understand, and I'm probably still not going to research it after this show. But it feels, not to put it into a certain section of the population, but it's a very rich person's, like, it feels like it's something when you're a little bit richer, is something that you do like as a kid and like grow up doing. So it fits in well with, I think, the characters. But also she kind of mentions that like he's holding back. Like, again, it's like, not only is he hiding something with the whole Ronin stuff, but there's just so much she doesn't even know about this guy, which translates into stuff that we don't know about him. So it's just more stuff that he's hiding, or maybe the mom is hiding, because that's what that whole scene felt like. It was like, I'm going to pressure you into you telling me everything. And he was just like, nah.
Yeah. Like, she, is trying to catch him off guard at one part too, because she knows that he'll parry it, and like it shows like his instinct came out, of like, I actually am a really good fencer, because like he was kind of letting her win, so when she tries to catch him by surprise and he still beats her with it, beats her that way, she's trying to point out to her mom that this guy is bad news. And I think that it's probably futile. I think her mom knows this, right? I think that's what we're kind of leaning towards, is that the mom is either part of it or the lead or ringleader of it. And after that, she tries to she leaves, especially when she sees Armand. He has the Armand monogrammed butterscotch.
Mm-hmm.
She leaves at that point. Little scared, because that's what she saw at the place. But really, that's his uncle. He could have been over there anytime and gotten it. So, I mean, Who knows? But it is supposed to be a clue, I think, that he was there that night. She tries to call Clint Barton, but, he's doing his catch and release, right? The old Nat move, as what his wife's going to call it. And it's a move we see in Avengers 1, where she gets herself caught and Fury gives her a call and, she's like, I'm working here, and she gets herself out of it real easily. She was doing one of those catch and release plans here. So he gets caught on purpose. He's actually breaking out of it. He's doing pretty good until she breaks in, and then, they like double tape him to the carousel, I guess. I don't know. But he's trying to get to who the boss is, and it seems like the boss is this lady that is deaf. This is Maya Lopez, who is also known as Echo, which is one of the shows we're going to be getting based off of this as well. We're getting an Echo show. So she is somebody that's been Ronin in the past. She's also somebody, not in the MCU, I guess, but in comics. It'd be interesting if she was Ronin at one point too, and that's why they have this history. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they got that. But what were you? I hear who's in the shadows that looked a lot like Kate's dad. I couldn't figure it out. Like whenever he was talking about show me to your leader, there's this guy that you would just see like in the shadows who had like really poofy hair, and I think they wanted you to think he was the leader, but then they go to Echo here. So I'm not sure who that's supposed to be, but I thought it looked a little bit like her dad's hair, but I'm probably wrong.
I mean, you don't know. I mean, like, obviously in the episode he dies, but like you never see that happen. So I guess like obviously with these Marvel stuff, you could never really say yes or no to it.
Yeah, show a body.
Because I mean, for me personally, because I had no idea who Echo was, like the ending scene to me was more so just like, okay, well, we're going to find out who she is later. Like, I'm going to find out, like, I don't have to look it up. Like, I'll find it out. They'll say it in the next show. And then I'm sure people will tell me, like, I'm sure I'll see a TikTok going about the detail of this character. So for me, it was just more so, I guess I was happy. The one thing I was happy was that it wasn't Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character. Because I'm like, for some reason, like, I understand she's going to play like an important role, but at the same time, I was hoping, my main hope was that she doesn't play much of a role in the show or at all. Like, even if it's at the end, like, that's fine. Like, if there's another person that she latches onto or something, I was just hoping it wasn't her. I was like, please just let it be somebody new and we'll kind of move on from there.
Right.
Because, yeah, like I don't have any attachment to the character. I didn't even know who Echo was really until you just said it. I mean, I've heard of the Marvel show, but to be honest, I don't think I really even like looked too into that. I do think it would be interesting if the reason they're after the suit is because she was Echo or she was Ronin. Instead of it being, oh, Ronin killed 70 of our men during the blip. Like, so that would be interesting. I think to an extent be possibly a little bit better in the end of it, because it's not what he thinks. And so it's kind of going off script to what you might expect when you're watching it as a casual fan. Like, oh, he was a bad guy. They're trying to get after him. Or maybe they go that route of this was her suit and she's like, why do you have it? And so I don't know. And then that could honestly lead to a completely different villain, which I know you said that there's like hints, or maybe like there could be like bigger villains. Like maybe they are just like a, what is it? Falcon Winter Soldier. I forget the name, but that like villain team, I felt like by the end of it was no longer that relevant to me. So maybe they're this show's version of it. They're just like an auxiliary villain, kind of having this different reason, so then they can throw in a big new villain maybe in the last episode or two.
Right. Echo in the comics is usually a hero, so I do think we'll see her make a bit of a turn throughout this series. And I do think there's somebody pulling her strings. If people want to know who that could be, you could look up Echo and see that who she's associated with in the comics.
I'm going to do that right now.
Oh, if we're doing it right now, it's she's usually a character in Daredevil comic books.
Oh, really?
She has relations as I think she's like an adoptive daughter to the Kingpin in Marvel Comics. So it could be somebody like the Kingpin coming into the MCU. Which is interesting is Vincent D'Onofrio, who played the Kingpin in the Daredevil Netflix series, retweeted the trailer for this show and said, I love these Marvel series. So some people think he's going to show up in this because of his tweet there.
Isn't Kingpin, he's a villain in Spider-Man, right? Or is that
he's a
somebody
Spider-Man
else?
Villain and a Daredevil villain. Yeah, he's both. Yeah.
This is where I start to get lost.
He's both. He's part of the Daredevil rights, though. So Marvel's able to use him, unlike the Sony characters.
She's also affiliated to the New Avengers. I don't know if that's a big deal or not. I'm just looking on what Google said. Team affiliations to Echo.
Yes. Yep. New Avengers, which I'm sure we'll get New Avengers or Young Avengers at some point. But
she's also affiliated with The Hand.
Yes, another Daredevil villain organization.
Well, then that's going to make it interesting, though, to a point where if that's where she's at, like, aren't those shows not the four? So, like, this could be completely different, but like the 4 shows that Netflix created, I think it was 4. They're not relevant to our current MCU, correct?
To our knowledge, no. But there's rumors of Charlie Cox, who played Daredevil, appearing in a project soon. So it seems like they might at least take the cast. I'm not sure if they'll take like the events that have happened in those, but if they do bring these in, I think they'd bring in the cast of it. You know,
yeah. Because I was gonna say, like, I haven't watched.
Disney's not going to be able to put those on Disney Plus anyway because they're Netflix series and they're also TVMA. So. If they were to do something new, maybe they would imply some of that stuff happened, but I don't think it would ever be essential viewing because they don't want to drive you to Netflix. They want to drive you to Disney Plus.
True. Okay, that calms that helps a little. I don't really, not that I don't want to see it, but like part of me is just like I enjoy the Marvel that I'm watching. You know, right. The stuff that's been through Disney.
Daredevil was good. The other series were not as good.
That's what I've heard. I heard the Punisher was. I want to say people say Punisher is usually the second one people like.
Yeah. I haven't watched Punisher, and I haven't finished Daredevil just because it got to the point where it got canceled, and I was like, "Great, I'll not have to watch it, I guess." But Netflix just really the way Netflix releases stuff just drains me at times. Where like, especially when it was Daredevil and stuff. If I couldn't watch them all that weekend, I was getting spoilers anyway, you know, and with the way this releases, at least we're able to talk about this stuff before it happens.
And I like that it's, I think one of my slight pet peeves with at least WandaVision was that maybe it's a streaming age, but when it's like a 25-minute episode in the streaming time frame, it doesn't feel like you're getting much. So having to wait a week for another 25 minutes. So like, I actually prefer it when they do the 55-minute episodes, even though that cuts down on the episodes per season or how many they're doing in the lone season, at least they're giving you more at that time. So then it's like, okay, I enjoyed that 50 minutes and I'm okay with waiting for another week to really think about it instead of here's a quick 21-minute episode. I hope you caught all of our little Easter eggs. He's Mephisto.
But not. Yeah.
Was Mephisto in this episode?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he's the dog. But yeah, so I think that's mostly all the stuff that happened, right? So they're both captured. We got Echo, or is the leader of the Tracksuit Mafia, and we're going to see where that goes and where that takes us from here. Any last thoughts, Matt?
Not really. I think it was a good, in a sense of the first 2 episodes. I think the second one definitely at least increased the pace a little. So it's where it did end to a point where I am intrigued, and actually going over it with you. There wasn't, I think, to a way, it wasn't a heavy filled episode of just so much stuff happening. Because like even when we went through it, it was like fairly quick plot points. But I think that's better than some convoluted 10 different things happening.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to nitpick through each one of them. Instead, it was like this second episode, he's getting the suit back. She's dealing with her parents. Villain reveal at the end. Like that does help the actual like running of it.
And we have 4 episodes left. We have another reason why they did 2 is because they don't want it to be the finale on the same day as Boba Fett premiere, I'm assuming. But I think it also had to do with trying to really hook you.
I was also thinking it had to do with Christmas. No, 22nd. No, never mind.
They'll release before that, right? We got episode 3.
It's Wednesdays, right?
5, 6. Yeah, it'll be on the 22nd.
And there's Boba Fett the 29th.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's probably the Boba Fett thing. They'll never cross paths with.
Eventually,
Marvel.
they'll have to, I think, because with how many shows each one of these is going to have, at some point they're going to have to cross. I don't know.
Or they could just start doing, maybe one on Wednesdays and the other on Fridays.
I really would. I've said it a few times on here. If you'd had Marvel be Wednesday, Star Wars be Friday, I would have a reason to go onto Disney Plus 2 to 3 times a week instead of the one time. Like let me interact with your app more than a day. Because at this point, if they release any of those shows at the same time, I would have to pick which one I'm watching first. And then I would watch them both like back to back. And then that's it. But if I did it on Wednesday and then did it on Friday, I'd have something to look forward to each of those days.
Yeah, as I say, we don't really get on Disney Plus except on whenever we watch the newest Marvel or like the newest Marvel show or Star Wars show. Like other than that. But that also means it's like, I don't even like, if we're trying to think of something to watch, we're like looking. I don't think I select Disney Plus that often. They just don't have, like, it's, I guess, more of a Disney Plus complaint is I want them to have more content.
They do. They really should. Because why are they letting, just a Disney Plus rant right now, why are they letting Peacock and Hulu have Modern Family when it is a 20th Century Fox show that they now own? It was on ABC. Why are you letting Peacock on NBC have the rights to that? Just put it from Hulu onto Disney Plus. There's nothing in Modern Family that would have people be like, oh, this is way worse than The Mandalorian. Like, like there's nothing like very violent or wrong in that show. How I Met Your Mother is another 20th Century Fox show that they could move from Hulu onto Disney Plus to get like adults and kids our age, like people our age to be like, oh, I'm going to turn on Disney Plus and watch Modern Family or How I Met Your Mother, not let me go into Hulu and watch those or Peacock when it should just be all under one thing.
Yeah, because then it leads to, if you go onto like Peacock, you're going to look at, like what movies are on there.
Right.
And it's like, there's always different.
You want them interacting with Disney Plus.
Disney Plus feels like they took it to an extent. Disney Plus right now is feeling very, what has been on Disney Channel, put it on there, besides the Weekenders. I'm still salty about that one. Like what's on Disney Channel, put it on there. Movies, TV shows, throw in Marvel, throw in Star Wars.
They need more than
like
just
National
the brand.
Geographic.
Yeah.
They need to
more than just the brands. They need, look, overseas they have the Disney Plus Star stuff, and that's working really well.
Family Guy's on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Sunny. It's Always Sunny is on Disney Plus over there because they have parental controls. Just do that over here. And maybe they will once they have full control of Hulu. They have control of Hulu, but they don't own Hulu. So maybe in 2 years when they have to buy it from Comcast, they'll decide to
Maybe just merge it
somehow, like where you like instead of Star, you click Hulu in the option instead, and it shows stuff. But they got to fix it. They can't rely, like, all of their stuff on Disney Plus Day was like, here's this reboot, here's this reimagining. How come How I Met Your Father couldn't have been a Disney Plus show? Just be TV 14. You know what I'm saying?
Hillary Duff.
Yeah, just be Disney. Yeah, just be TV 14. You can have TV 14 on Disney Plus. Like, they have parental controls on there. Just make it where your kids are not offered the TV 14 stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's
anyway. If you want to rant Disney Plus with us too, you can email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com, Twitter @2infinitysaga, Facebook.com/InfinitySagaBeyond, and have a great rest of your week. We'll be breaking down the 3rd episode of Hawkeye next week.